Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. Please visit our website, cscatlanta.org, for a complete list of live and recorded events. If this is your first time participating, we invite you to complete a new attendee form to stay connected to all future programs.
Okay, so hello, welcome to the cooking class. Today we're doing new ways to love greens. I feel like this is the perfect time of year with the start of spring weather to start thinking about adding fresh greens if you're not already doing it. And by greens, I mean, my definition of that is basically anything green that you're eating. So today I'm going to highlight lots of different greens. I've got this nice salad mix here, which I'll tell you what's in that in just a minute. And then I'm also going to highlight cabbage and cilantro. Basically this second dish that I'm doing. I don't know if you guys can see this. What color is it? It's green. So that's coming up after I cook the first recipe. So hopefully you guys have access to the recipe handouts. I'm going to be working on the farro salad with mixed greens and roasted sweet potatoes first. And I've already gotten it going in the pot. In this pot here, I have boiling salted water with farro. This is a grain called farro. We've used it in these classes before, but if you're not familiar with it, it's sort of large. It's bigger than rice, the size. And when it cooks, it's sort of chewy and it has sort of a nutty flavor. It says traditionally used in Mediterranean. So hopefully you guys have heard of this grain. If not, it'll be new to you. But it is easily to find in the grocery store. And in your recipe, when cooking it, you're basically going to cook it like pasta. So pretend you're making spaghetti. You just fill up a pot with water. You don't have to measure it, with a little salt. And then you're going to add your measured farro. And then at the end of cooking, we're going to drain it just like you would drain pasta. So it's a little bit easier than rice. You don't have to worry about the measurement of water and keeping it covered. Right now I have it uncovered. As long as the farro is underneath the water, it's going to cook perfectly. So it's very easy to cook. And you'll notice in your instructions, it talks about the cooking time. Because it's a whole grain, it does take a little bit more time to cook. And you want to look at your farro package, or if you're buying it in bulk, see if it has a little description in store, like under the name. You want to see if you're buying the pearled variety or the like whole farro that's where the whole thing is intact, because that depends upon the cooking time. I have a semi-pearled farro here, and so according to the package, it's a 30-minute cooking time. But if you buy one that's not pearled, you just have to plan for more time. It takes about 45 to 60 minutes depending upon the farro. But an easy way, and even if you're not sure, if you bought something and you have no idea how long to cook it, it's an easy grain. Just always set your timer for 30 minutes. Then at 30 minutes, just take a spoon, check, see if it's cooked. If it needs more time, give it more time. It's no problem at all, because you're not going to have a lid on this during the cooking time. And so you don't have to worry about lifting the lid on and off to check. So basically what I'm trying to say is you're going to be cooking it anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes, depending upon the farro that you bought at the store. So this one is made by a company, Bob's Red Mill, and you just find it in the rice area, or maybe it might be sort of in the specialty food aisle area, depending upon your store. But they have it at all the main stores, the Publix, Kroger, all those. They should have it. So that is farro. And if you don't want to buy farro, you don't think you're going to use it, that's totally fine. You can substitute any grain you like for this recipe. Quinoa, rice, you name it. Any grain. You're going to think of this, I think of this style of recipe as like a grain bowl. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but usually those are a type of grain mixed with a vegetable and sort of like a sauce. So on to the next part of this recipe. We have our vegetable today is sweet potatoes, and I've also cut up some sweet onions here on the pan. These are just cut to be sort of bite-sized. You want to, it doesn't really matter what size you go for here. You can go for larger pieces. You just want to make sure your onion and your sweet potato are similar sizes so that they cook at the same rate. So I have a sweet potato. I picked, now there's lots of different varieties of sweet potatoes. This one that I'm using here today is called Red Garnet. This is my favorite type of sweet potato. It's super sweet. But there's also Japanese sweet potatoes, lots of different ways you could go here. And I've just cut these up. They're on a sheet pan with some parchment paper. That just allows for easy cleanup. And then I'm just going to drizzle these because we're going to be roasting these in the oven. I'm going to drizzle with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm just going to do it right here in the pan so that I don't mess up another bowl. So that's a little olive oil. And then a unique ingredient here to this roast is balsamic vinegar. I don't know why, but balsamic vinegar and sweet potato, the flavors of those go so well together. So that's about a tablespoon of balsamic. You can see measuring wise, it's very flexible. And then we're going to add a little salt and pepper. Freshly ground pepper whenever possible. It just has a lot better flavor. And then a spoon just to mix, to get everything thoroughly mixed. If you have beets already in the house and you're looking for a way to use them, this recipe also is amazing with roasted beets. Or you could do a combo of the sweet potatoes and the beets together. I like switching it up. You could also do like roasted broccoli, really any, you could get really crazy. Roasted Brussels sprouts. I love being able to take a recipe, use it as sort of like some inspiration to just change it up and use whatever you have on hand. It's a really nice way just to use what you already have up. Okay, so that's mixed. You notice everything is in one layer. You don't want to have everything piled up. You want to give the vegetables plenty of room while they're cooking to release their water and not steam, because we're looking for a nice roasted brown, and that happens only when they have plenty of room for releasing their liquids. All right, so this is a 400 degree oven, and that's going to go for about 30 minutes or so. We're going to toss it halfway through. Okay, so ingredients in here while we wait. Let's see, about a cup of walnuts. These were raw, and so I'm going to, it doesn't say this in your recipe, but if you want to add a little bit more flavor to these, I'm just going to dry roast them in the oven while those sweet potatoes start cooking, just for about 5 minutes, because something about that toasting of the raw nuts really brings out their flavor. So if you want to add a little note, this is not like, you don't absolutely have to do this, but it does add a nice little extra flavor if you have time to do that. And then let's talk about our greens that we're using. So this is a mix that I bought in the store. It's called Super Greens, and it is a mix of red and green Swiss chard, tat sao, which is sort of like a Asian green, like bok choy sort of, arugula, and spinach. So I thought this was a nice mix to show today, because we are talking about greens, and variety is so good when you're talking about adding fruits and vegetables to your diet. Variety is key. So having this really nice variety of greens, especially some that we don't normally eat raw, like I don't normally eat Swiss chard raw, so it's kind of a nice way to do it. And because they're so small, these have all been picked. Let's see, this is a very small Swiss chard. You can tell because of the red sort of stem in here. By eating them really small, they're extra packed with nutrients because the plant hasn't gotten big yet, and they're also very like sweet and just easier to eat. Here, this is the top sao. You can see it's kind of like bok choy with that white stem. We have arugula. So I don't know. I just think this is a nice, easy mix. Plus, it's already washed, and it's just ready to toss right in. But as always, the recipe is flexible. So I've given you some different ideas on here: kale, spinach, cabbage. Even just kind of use your imagination. Try to just add whatever you have on hand. I know I keep saying that, but I love at the end of the week looking in my refrigerator and seeing that I've used everything fresh. So anyways, it's just a good opportunity to add some variety. All right, so also in this recipe, we have goat cheese. The goat cheese really helps. I mean, the flavor of the goat cheese just goes really well with everything else. So this is optional. If you're avoiding dairy, you don't have to worry about this, but it is just adds a nice flavor to everything. Okay, so I am gonna, let's see, the nuts have been in there for a couple minutes. Let's pause for a minute. Does anyone have any comments or questions about anything in this recipe? Have you guys used farro before, or is it new?
I have a question about the greens.
The greens, okay.
What's the name on that package again?
Okay, this is a brand called Organic Girl, and the variety is called Super Greens.
Okay.
Can you see it? I don't know. I think I'll hold it up.
Yeah, thanks.
Super Greens.
I have a question
for the
about
class.
Yes, I do use farro in my oatmeal.
Oh, good.
With a lot of other grains.
Okay, so like, do you buy it as a mix or do you?
No, I put old-fashioned oatmeal. I'll put farro. I'll put quinoa, rice, grits. You name it. I got anything green line. I throw it in my slow cookery. Let it cook down for a while, and I come out with a nice sized bowl of oatmeal that lasts me a week.
Yum, I love that. That's so smart. Yeah, this farro is super nice along with all the other greens that you mentioned. The fiber in this is awesome. On the side, we're talking, let's see, 1/4 cup has 7 grams of protein. I mean, sorry, not protein, 7 grams of fiber. So that's awesome. I love that you're mixing everything together and getting your day started with a big nutrient bowl of fiber. Can we talk about fiber for a minute? Fiber is so, so, so important for every function in your body. I've been obsessed with gut health lately. I had to take an antibiotic earlier this year, and something with that antibiotic really messed up my gut. And so since that happened, I have been reading and learning about, I already knew a lot about this anyways, but I've just been diving deeper because there's so much new research about the gut microbiome and how fiber is so, and your gut bacteria is so connected to every like vital function in your body. Immunity, so like your immune system, inflammation, brain health, skin health. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So fiber, one of the easy ways to do it is whole grains, as well as looking at a rainbow and variety of vegetables, fruits and vegetables. So farro is got your fiber. All right, let me check on those nuts. Let's see.
Robin, it says that you have your hand raised. Do you have a question? Go ahead and speak if you do.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the farro, I purchased it at Trader Joe's and it's already cooked.
Okay.
So it only needs about 10 or 15 minutes, I believe, of boiling. Are you getting the same nutrition if you get it that way as opposed to purchasing it raw?
Oh, that's a good question. I do not know. So you'll have to look at the package. Is it like frozen or?
No, it comes like rice, but it says it's
Oh,
pre-cooked
okay.
or something. I'm not sure. I don't have a
Yeah.
package with me. But
Okay.
it only takes about 10 minutes to prepare.
Okay.
The same way that you make it, except the cooking time is shorter.
Yeah. Okay. So check that could be like an easy, let's see, check the package do you still have the package?
I don't have it, no.
Okay. Well, the next time you buy it, or if you're looking in the store, check the package and see, and we can compare it to this one, which is, the full cooking time. This one, and really what I'm looking at here, you would be looking at the ingredients to see if they've added anything to it. They probably haven't, but just double check the ingredients. You only want farro, of course, or farro, however you say it. And then you are looking for fiber. So sometimes like with instant rice, or if they've cut like with quick oats, sometimes the fiber is lost in that process. So check the fiber, see if it's around 7 grams of fiber per quarter cup serving. That would be a good way to check.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure, I haven't seen that one before, but if it is just, they may have chopped it up a little bit, or like taken off some of the outer layers of the grain just to speed up the cooking time, or maybe they par cooked it. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Yeah, look into it.
Yeah.
And if it is around 7 grams of fiber per quarter cup, then that might be like an easy, it's probably great. And then that would be like an easy way to speed up the cooking time for
Right.
you to make it, quick,
Right.
faster, which is great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so our nuts, I think they're looking great. They have a little smell. It is important to keep an eye on them though, because they can burn really fast. I don't know if you guys can see here. So they're just a little bit darker brown, but there's no like burning on them. So that's not, the burning creates like a bitter taste. So you want to try to avoid that if you can. But that just kind of, we're not adding anything to them. We're just sort of toasting them in the oven like you would bread or something. So I'm actually going to go ahead and pour these in here, because we'll add these into the mix as soon as the other stuff is finished cooking. Okay, so any other questions on this recipe? All right, well, if you think of something, let me know. I'm going to move on to the next recipe and sort of get that one going while this one is finishing. The farro has about 7 minutes, and I didn't set a timer on the sweet potatoes, but we'll just check them when the farro is finished, and we'll kind of turn them and see how they're doing. Okay, so over here, I am working on the second recipe, which is the green apple and cabbage slaw. This is a different take on slaw. So no mayonnaise involved, and actually no vinegar involved either. And so cabbage. There's lots of different varieties out there. You can use any type of cabbage that you like with this recipe. Today, I just happen to have this, it's called Savoy cabbage. It's sort of like the cabbage grows, it's bumpy. So when the cabbage grows, I've already rinsed this, but I'm just gonna take off, you need to take off the outer leaves. Save those for like a vegetable stock or something. And when I cut into it, I'm gonna take off that's where it was connected to the plant. So take that part off. And then I'm just gonna cut right through the middle. And you'll see the inside, it's sort of like, because the texture of it's bumpy, it's not in there quite as tight. So I feel like the leaves are a little like softer. They still have a nice crunch, but they're softer. And I feel like this has just sort of like a nice sweet taste to it. So if you can find this, it might be fun to try if you've never tried it before. So I just quartered that half, and then I'm going to take out the stem on the inside. That's sort of like the core. And then I'm just going to thinly slice with my knife. You could use a mandolin for this, which this is an example of a mandolin. There's a bunch of different types out there, but I'm just going to use my knife for this, just to thinly slice down. You could also use a food processor. I just find this is faster and I don't have to wash the food processor or a mandolin. Okay, then you got a big bowl and put it in your bowl. And then you can just go through each section of your cabbage. I tried, when I was thinking about greens to use today, I tried to think of some that are maybe you haven't used very, maybe they're less common. So cabbage came to mind. And cabbage is so fresh. I love it. And okay, so I think I'm going to stop there just because I'm not feeding you guys today, unfortunately. But this is half of that you saw, about a medium to large size cabbage. The ingredients in this recipe are sort of like, you'll see 2 to 3 green onions, 3 to 4 tablespoons of oil. It's 2 to 3 limes. It's flexible because I feel like the cabbage that you buy, all of them are like, depending upon the type, number one, plus the size. So this will be based on about, I don't know, let's see how many, 1, 2, about 4 cups or so of sliced cabbage. And it was half a head. Okay. So now I have my green Granny Smith apple. Green because it goes with the other colors of this dish. You could also use red though, of course, if you want to. I'm gonna try out, let's see, this mandolin with the apple. Okay, no, it's too thin. See how thin that is? So it's not gonna work. I'm just gonna do it by hand again. That way, if you don't have a mandolin at home, you can still make this recipe. But if you do have a mandolin and you've got that insert that can cut strips, let me show you. So I'm just gonna go down the side of the apple. What I'm doing is creating the same size cut as the cabbage. So you've got these apple slices, and then you're just gonna, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but you're just gonna kind of cut and you're gonna get these. So that's kind of, it makes it look cool. I'm always into like making the vegetables look new and interesting. Like if I gave this to my kid and I was like, have an apple chip. They might try it versus how I always cut the apple. It just looks different and cool. So slices of apple going in. This just gives like a really nice tart. The Granny Smith especially, that variety of apple gives it a nice sour, tart, fresh flavor. So you keep cutting your apple, and then once you get into the core, you're going to turn the apple the other way, and just keep going till you get to the core again. Turn it. It helps, obviously, and I feel like I talk about this every single class. It helps to have a sharp knife, right? Has anyone had any progress on sharpening their knives? Or not yet? I'm going to ask you every time. Okay, well, let me know.
We just dropped our knives off today to be sharpened. You inspired me.
Oh, yay! Oh my gosh, I love it. Wow. All right, let us know when you get them back. Let us know if you notice a difference.
Okay.
Because for the knives, you're going to use a knife every time you cook, right? Especially if you're looking to eat healthier, add more vegetables, all of that, you're going to use a knife. And if you have a sharp knife, it just makes the whole experience so much more enjoyable. Okay, so I'm just going through, giving these a nice julienne, your recipe says. I was trying to think of the word. Julienne, if you're getting technical. All right, what are we? Okay, our faro is beeping here. Let me see. How do I turn this off? I think I just pull it off. All right. No, it doesn't like that. Turn it off. Okay, I think I turned it off. Let me get a spoon. I'm just going to taste this and make sure that it's nice and soft and cooked all the way through. So give it a stir. It has increased in size, so that means it's absorbed a fair amount of that water. Let me just see here. Yeah, it's done. Okay, so I'm going to drain it with something. If I can find a strainer. Here we go. So remember, it's like pasta. So you just drain off the water, the extra water that's left over. Very easy. Give it a shake. You don't want any of that cooking water to water down your flavors of your dish. So make sure it's really nice and well drained. Will that sit on there? Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of let that drain and cool here while we finish up the slaw. Okay, so back to the apples. The other nice thing about the Granny Smith apple is if you're gonna make this ahead of time, don't worry about the browning, the apple going brown, because we're gonna add some lime juice in this. That's gonna obviously help it stay nice and fresh looking, but I don't know, for some reason the Granny Smith seems to brown. I don't know, the browning is a little less, happens a little less. Okay, so that is the apple. I'm gonna add some cilantro. This is the cilantro. I'm not even gonna worry about taking the leaves off the stems. I'm just gonna kind of bunch it up. This has already been washed and dried. Just gonna kind of bunch it up, and your recipe says 1/3 of a cup. But again, just eyeball it based on how much cabbage you have. That's gonna be plenty, I think. And then you could also go for parsley if you're not a cilantro fan. And then we've got some limes. So picking out limes at the store, you want to look for one that has a good give when you squeeze it. You don't want one that's hard. That means if it's hard, that means it's old and like the juice is sort of evaporated in there. You want one that has a nice, then you know there's going to be a lot of nice juice in there. This one is pretty big. So I actually only have one lime, and limes don't have seeds. So you don't have to worry about, like with the lemon, you have to strain out the seeds. So with the lime though, I just use a fork and just kind of poke it in there and squeeze and like sort of turn your fork. That way you don't need a special tool. And this is a lot of juice. This lime is seriously juicy. I don't know if you've ever had a lime that's just sort of like, it just doesn't have very much at all. Those are really, this is the exact opposite. I feel like it does not normally have this much juice, but that's why your recipe says 2 to 3 limes, because they're all sort of different. So I'm gonna go with like 1.5 actually, I think. And then we'll taste it in a second. So that's the lime juice, and then we've got honey. Let's see. This is a new thing of honey. Let's see if we can get it. Honey just adds a little bit of sweetness. It's nice because it's a natural sugar. It's not crystallized. So let's see. Another nice thing about honey, especially this time of year, studies have shown that the honey local to your area can help reduce seasonal allergies. So this one says, this one is from Pickens, South Carolina. So I don't know if that's local enough. I would try to go more local if you can. Wow, why is this? All right, this lid is, whoa. All right, I'm just gonna go this way. I also don't even worry about like making this dressing in a separate bowl. It's fine just to mix it. Wow, that was messy. Okay, don't do it that way. Hold on. Everything mixes just fine all together here in the bowl. Okay, so now we've got olive oil. And then we're going to use salt and pepper. Okay. Again, freshly ground pepper makes a big difference. Spoon, give us a stir.
Are you using kosher salt or regular salt?
I have sea salt, and it is, let me see what it is. It is fine crystals.
Okay.
This is what I have. Sea salts. So that is totally a personal choice. The sea salt. It depends. There's so many different kinds of sea salt out there. It depends upon the variety, but sea salt contains some micro minerals, like a super, super small amount. Plus, I like the clean flavor of the sea salt. And you can, it's not going to have iodine in it, which you do need iodine in your diet, but you can add it sparingly. If you do, so here's what I do at home. And this is just one way to do it. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my advice if you don't want to, but we know we need iodine in the diet. So what I do is, I like the taste of the sea salt though. So I just have a small salt jar, and I mix a little bit of iodized salt in with my sea salt and just kind of mix it in there. There's no exact measurement or anything. That way I know we're getting a little bit of iodine from the salt, but it's not overpowering it. So, but you can also use kosher salt. That also doesn't have iodine, but it's not coming from the ocean or the sea. It is coming from land, salt mines, land mines. I don't know, the flavor is different. So it's a totally personal decision.
Hey, Ashley?
Yeah.
This is Ela Doshi. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I've read a lot about Celtic salt or sea salt, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between the two, the Celtic and the sea salt, or is it the same?
Oh, okay. So the Celtic, from what I understand, it comes from a specific area. Just like the Himalayan sea salt comes from only a certain area of the Himalayas,
Okay.
So it depends upon the variety, and they all have they're touting different things. So one might be high in certain amount of micronutrients, whereas others, so you can use, I love the flavor of that one. What have you read about it?
Well, I've just read the Celtic salt has lots of minerals, and there are healthy nutrients are in the Celtic salt, and they recommend using that.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I also love the flavor of that one too. There's so many different kinds of salts. So in New York City, there's a store called The Meadow, and it's literally, you walk in, it's a hole in the wall, but it's a store that only sells salt, and they source it from around the world. You can get, you just walls and walls of salt. So, and most of them are the sea salt and stuff like that. So I think it's, you're talking about the specific variety that's come from a certain area, and it's got extra micronutrients. So do a little research on that if you want. You can also, it's not going to make or break your healthy salad though. So you can still, you're obviously still getting a ton of amazing benefits from the vegetables that are in this little salad here.
Yeah. Perfect. So looks amazing. Yeah, it looks really yummy.
I love the taste of this. It's a little bit sour because of the apple and the lime, but you also have this super nice crunch, and it's just a really easy take on a slaw, which we all we live in the South, so slaw is a big thing here. Right?
I'm gonna make it tonight.
Yeah, it's just so good. I love it. And then, like I said, it keeps well too. So if you want to make it ahead of time, make a big bowl, and then that apple shouldn't brown on you at all. Okay, so that's the green apple and cabbage slaw.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, can you, I don't eat cabbage. It doesn't agree with me. So
Got it.
what other green would you suggest in this salad that would be, it's not going to be cabbage, but what other one would you recommend using?
You could use anything, any sort of raw green. So you could use arugula, you could use spinach, you could use a combo. You could use kale.
Okay. Right.
And you're still gonna get like the awesome flavors of the apple, the lime, the honey. Oh, you know what I forgot? Green onion. So what I meant to do this morning was I have like a little chive plant, and I meant to go get some chives for that this morning out of my little pot, but I forgot. So I don't have the green onion or the chive in it today, but you can still, obviously add your green onion, and you're making a salad that has all of the flavor. You're just changing up the green. And that's good to know anyways, even if you do like cabbage, you may go to the store and the cabbages may not look good if they're out of season or something, but you can still make this recipe with, like we said, kale, or even with, like, if you want to sort of transform it into a similar dish as the farro, you could add farro into this, or like a little bit of quinoa, cooked quinoa or something like that, and then make it into, still add your green, but add the addition of the grain, and then it's more like a grain bowl. So then you're getting really creative. Also, goat cheese goes well with any sort of fruit. So if you add goat cheese in here with your apple, hey, we've just created a new recipe. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Are we getting, okay. All right, should we check on the vegetables? Let's see. Okay, they look nice. I'm gonna turn them. I'm gonna show you guys. They're almost done. Actually, we could call them done. Let's see. All right, you guys, these vegetables look awesome. Onion is something new I've been adding to every single time I roast vegetables. I've been adding onion because onions have so many good nutrients, especially for your gut health. And so the onions in this, I feel like onions is something that we sometimes forget to add to roasted vegetables. The onions in this look amazing. So I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to go ahead and just, okay, you want to zoom in here a little bit? I'll try to lift it up. So they're getting a little bit of browning. They're nice and soft. They just look good. So now I'm going to add those in. Basically, I'm just going to kind of mix everything together. We've got the vegetables, the walnuts, and the farro are all going to go together in this bowl. That's why I love the parchment paper, is because you can just kind of slide your ingredients off onto the pan. Very easy cleanup of your sheet pan then. You don't have to use any extra. The parchment acts sort of like a non-stick surface. All right, here's the farro that was draining.
Ashley, someone asked if you add yogurt to the salad.
The cabbage, the apple and cabbage slaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not. If you want to kind of mimic that mayonnaise of like a traditional slaw, yogurt is a perfect way to do that. You're gonna get like a super tangy flavor, so you might have to play with the amount of honey that you add, just so it's not too sour. But yeah, absolutely. If you want to sort of mimic that creaminess, that's great. I love it. I feel like we've already created like 3 different recipes out of that slaw already. Okay, so here's the farro, the roasted vegetables, the walnuts. I'm going to add a little bit of the crumbled goat cheese. You have to be careful when mixing the goat cheese in here, because you don't want to smash it all around too much. So kind of add that. The vegetables are definitely hot right now, so you don't want to mix and then have that be sort of like a smashed slimy texture. And then I have the greens. So I think what I'm going to do, since that's kind of hot, is I'm going to get a serving plate. let's see if I can find some sort of, this one looks all right. So this is just a serving dish. I'm gonna go so that everything doesn't get, because those vegetables are hot, so everything doesn't get sort of smushed together. I'm just gonna put down my greens in the bottom of this dish. You can get creative with whatever kind of dish you have already. Or this could be your bowl, like your lunch bowl or dinner bowl. Put your greens down.
Do you wash your greens usually?
Now this, I don't. I mean, some people do like to just for extra, especially if your immune system is compromised. This is triple washed. So I haven't had a problem with if it's been washed already. But you can go ahead, there's no harm done. Okay, so that's our greens, and then I'm just gonna lightly add the warm, doesn't have to be warm though, obviously. This is another great one to cook ahead, but this would be like obviously a serving for a family, not for one person. But you could, obviously change the serving size if you're just doing one person. So that, and then let me make sure I get a little bit of the goat cheese on top. And that is lovely. Try to make it like inviting and fun. There we go. Here, move my clock out of the way. And then you could, if you want to add a little bit more of that balsamic vinegar over top. Your recipe says olive oil. I don't know. At this point, I feel like it has plenty of olive oil because the vegetables I can see are still sort of got the olive oil that we cooked them in. That's totally up to you. If they look dry, and because your salad greens don't have any dressing on them, but you could just add let me show you, a little bit of vinegar. Just for a little extra flavor, like when that all gets tossed together. So, bon appetit. That is the final dish there, and this is the final cabbage.
That salad looks amazing, Ashley.
Awesome.
I love a good sweet potato on a salad. One of my favorite restaurants does that. Very similar, and I think they put pumpkin seeds on it. So good.
Ooh. Yes, I love that. Especially when you toast the pumpkin seeds like we did with the walnuts. That adds another extra crunch.
Yes.
That sounds so good. Is anyone hungry? I am.
That's great.
All right, I want to tell you one thing before we go about the cabbage, if you guys have a minute. When talking about the gut microbiome and the gut bacteria, you can think of it like a little garden of bacteria in your stomach. And the bacteria is very excited, the good bacteria is very excited about fiber, all the different colors of fruits and vegetables, and also fermented food. And this is something that I'm like getting into just barely, like I'm just sort of scratching the surface. I experimented, let's see, 2 weeks ago with a like a cabbage, like a sauerkraut. So a cabbage, you'll have to let me know if anybody has done this before, but making a sauerkraut at home, because one of the things that happens when cabbage ferments is that it creates like this whole other type of awesome bacteria that isn't in the raw form yet. And it ferments for, like 10 plus days. And if you use a fresh cat, like if you're doing this at home, the flavor is kind of funky, but it's so good. Has anybody experimented with that? I'm wondering if we, give me a little bit more time to perfect my method, but I'm wondering if we should do a little class on that, just because it's so, so good for gut health. And fermented food is something that other cultures have already kind of worked into their tradition, into their diet. But here in the US, we, at least where I grew up, we didn't have any fermented food on a regular basis. And it's so, so good for your gut bacteria, your immune system, inflammation, all that. What do you guys think? Well, let me know. Let us know in the comments, or let us know what you think if you guys want to maybe explore that a little bit in another class.
Yeah, that would be great.
Another thing I want to tell you guys is that I recently started something called Fresh Harvest. It's like a vegetable box that gets delivered to your door, like to your front door. And it is unique because it's based out of Clarkston, Georgia, and they're using vegetables local. So everything that I get in this box is local farms. And so the quality, the freshness of it is amazing, and everything you get in the box is customizable. So it's different than like a CSA that you're getting from one farm, in that you can customize what you get each week depending upon what's available. And so if you're looking for more variety of vegetables, more color on your plate, fresh, like way fresher than the grocery store, and you don't want to go to the farmer's market, it has been amazing. If you look on their website, freshharvestga for Georgia.com, it's so good. They don't know me. I have no affiliation with them, but it's just, has anybody tried this or heard of it? It was new to me. I actually put a question out because I was looking to add more freshness to our meals at home. And so I put a question out on our Nextdoor, like the Nextdoor neighborhood app, just to see if anybody had any recommendations for CSAs from local farms. And so someone mentioned this Fresh Harvest. Actually, like 10 people said, Fresh Harvest, you have to try it. And it's been so good. So I'm just so impressed with it. And if they don't deliver to your neighborhood, I think you can pick up at like a co-op. You can try to find a co-op pickup point where you can pick it up each week. But anyways, something to check out if you're interested in adding more fresh, local, super duper high quality produce into your diet, which is so good for health.
Ashley, someone had a question about the cabbage.
Yeah.
Using the center of the cabbage, most people throw it away, but isn't that where all the nutrients are?
You can use that. Yeah, you can absolutely use that for like a veg broth. You could really kind of chop. I mean, it's totally edible. You could use, you could really chop it up fine in like a food processor or a blender, and you could throw it into the mix. Even these outer leaves, like one of the uses for these outer leaves is like if you're going to make a sauerkraut or like a ferment in a jar, you sort of use this outer leaf to press everything down that's in the jar underneath the liquid from the juices of the vegetables. So this outer leaf, if you're going to make a sauerkraut, is perfect for that. But yeah, absolutely. You don't have to throw these away. These are just the ones that get sort of like, especially if you're getting it from a grocery store, they just sort of get like torn up and wilted a little bit. Anything else?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm on the website for the Fresh Harvest.
Okay.
And it looks amazing. I'm a vegetarian and I'm really pescatarian because I eat fish. And I go through so much produce in a week, and sometimes the produce I get at the grocery stores are just not fresh.
Yeah.
And I'm real picky with my produce. If I'm going to eat it, I want it to be super fresh. So this looks amazing. Thank you so much for the recommendation on this website. I'm going to look more into it. But I see that you also have prepared meals as well as fish. Have you purchased any of those, and what's your experience with that?
Okay, so I've only gotten the box for 2 weeks, and my initial goal was vegetables only because like you said, at the store, I struggled with getting a good variety and freshness. So I've only gotten the vegetables. I order the medium box, and it's 9 vegetables. You choose, what you want, obviously, but it's just 9 vegetables based on the season. And but I did notice, and last week I added on a couple of extra things, not meat. I haven't done meat yet, or fish, or any of the prepared meals, but they do look awesome. it's sort of like, you can kind of think of it as like shopping at a farmer's market. Sometimes you do see like these smaller, like culinary companies that are, selling like little small dishes. Also, they have like the soaps, naturally made soaps, local soaps that you would find at the farmer's market. And some of the other, like milk, I think was another one. You just have to kind of get on there and explore. But basically what I've figured out is that you can order like a vegetable box and you can add on different items. I don't know how it works if you just want to get meat or you just want to get the prepared items, but I'm sure you can figure that out. I just haven't ordered any of that stuff yet, but it does look awesome.
The vegetables, in your opinion, were they
amazing?
Oh,
like
wow.
You can tell, like broccoli was one of the things that I noticed a huge difference with, because my kids like kind of eat broccoli and we like broccoli, but I could never get them to eat broccoli raw. Like that was not happening. But the broccoli that we got from Fresh Harvest, they ate that raw like no problem.
Wow.
They loved it. It was so good.
Are they organic vegetables?
Yes, they are organic.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
I know. It is such a good value. Like I feel like even the cost of it is like, the cost of it is not bad, considering number one, you're getting it delivered, and number two, it's organic and they're picking it like that week. So it's super duper fresh.
Right. Well, you sold me on it. I am definitely going to order a box this week and
cool.
And check it out. So grateful for you to make that suggestion. I didn't know that they existed. So
yeah, I don't know if it's a newer company. I think it's something that's sort of exploding now especially in 2020 with the pandemic, because the farmers struggled really to get their produce out to the restaurants, because the volume at the restaurants just kind of went down for such a long time. And then the farmers markets also, people, kind of weren't shopping at farmers markets for a while. So this has been like a really, really nice, amazing thing to find out at this time of year. I mean, it's just been, I hope.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank
really,
you.
Really good. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Anybody else have any final comments or questions?
Thanks, Ashley. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We don't have the next class scheduled yet, but we'll get it on the calendar as soon as we can. And we might be switching days. It looks like we might not do Mondays anymore. We might try to do Wednesdays or Thursdays. So be on the lookout at the schedule for the next class in April.
Ashley, can I suggest, if you can, or if you at all possible, to do a class on sprouted grains?
Ooh, sprouted grains. Okay.
Please.
I love it. Okay. Well, here's one thing that I'm also getting into. My progress on this is kind of slow, but sprouting, I've been sprouting, I've ordered the sprouts to start sprouting broccoli, some of those other seeds. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you specifically talking like a certain type of grain?
No, I'm talking about what you're talking about, because I saw those two on Amazon that they have the dry sprouted mix that you can sprout for your salads and stuff. I do the mung and fenugreek and the other seeds at home, which I cook with the lentils. I sprout all of them, but I just wanted to learn more about sprouting and how good, and I know it's healthy for you.
Yes,
especially when you're looking at carbs.
I know this is something that I'm on. I've got the jars, I've got the little lids, and I've got the sprouts are coming in the mail hopefully sometime this week. Yeah. So I would love to do that, because yes, exactly what you're saying. Sprouting is a really, really good way to get a really high amount of nutrients in a little small, and it's very economical. Like it doesn't cost a lot. Yeah. So yes, let's definitely do that. As soon as I get my process down and I learn a little bit more, give me a few months.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
I would love to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I just have to say, this makes me laugh. I did sprouting in the early 70s.
Yes, it is making a comeback. You know what? This is kind of funny. My parents also did sprouting, and they grew microgreens, and when I was a kid, and they even had like grow lights and all this kind of stuff. And I never really paid that much attention to it. And they even still did it like 5 years ago. And I still was kind of not really paying attention to it. And I also sprouted like cat grass for my cats. And like, I still wasn't eating it myself, even though like it was all around me. And then all of a sudden, like some kind of light bulb went off earlier this year where I was like, oh my gosh, why am I not doing this? Like, I know people who do it. I have seen it done, and I've done it for my cats. Like, yeah, so it's definitely a trend coming back for sure. And I think one of the reasons is because we're learning so much more. There's been so much more studies on the impact of gut health and the bacteria in your gut. And sprouts are one way to add some awesome bacteria for health. So to be continued. All right, guys. Well, I have a lot of homework. Maybe you guys can research some too. And then we'll meet up next class and we'll discuss some more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For joining
Thanks.
us today.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. If you're interested in other live or recorded programs, please visit the online program tab of our website, cscatlanta.org, or follow us on Facebook. We'll be sharing additional information on upcoming programs.